Welcome back, you Alibaba bulls. So I know recently there have been a huge influx of content, regardless whether it's articles, YouTube videos, or even podcasts, talking about all the specific big investors and big whales out there with substantial holding, speaking about Alibaba Group particularly. So in this video, I'll just be sharing particularly what I think Mohnish got wrong about Alibaba and just provide you with a different perspective so that we are ultimately all objective investors. We target the viewpoint and we target the perspective rather than the person. I know that there have been a lot of big investors out there, for example, Mohnish, Charlie Munger, Ray Dalio, all holding hands, singing Kumbaya, thinking that Alibaba Group might be the next 10x opportunity. But I would just really like to take the time to sit down and talk to you about the different perspective out there so that we are not blindsided and just blindly fall in love with the stock itself. So before I start, I did create a Discord channel, so it's everything related to Alibaba. So for all you bulls and bears out there, you guys are all welcome to join this entire open community. I believe everybody right here is extremely friendly. And for those of you who want to put forth different arguments, you want to discuss, you want to dispute, or you want to even debate any certain kinds of issue, both in the US and China market, you are open to do so. I think everybody will be happy to listen to your viewpoint. So if you are interested, please click in the link in the description box down below to join the entire Discord server itself. On top of that, I've left my referral link for both Tiger and Moomoo brokers. They're essentially both a brokerage firm from China, and right now they're aggressively expanding in the entire world itself. So for those of you who are interested in getting an Apple share, I think the promotion runs till the first week of August. So for those of you who haven't get your free Apple share, what are you waiting for? If you would like more details regarding the entire promotion and referral rewards, please feel free to reach out to me on both the Discord server or just on the YouTube comment section down below. With that, let's get right into today's topic. So in this case, I'm not too sure whether you have followed Mohnish on YouTube itself. He himself has a YouTube channel and he has around 30 to 40,000 subscribers. He constantly posts about a lot of Q&A sessions which he have with various universities or various crowds. I think there are a lot of wisdom that we can elicit from the entire interview process itself. It's usually a 1 hour to 1.5 hour talk or podcast style session, and I would really encourage you to go and look through how all these investors propose their viewpoint and deliver what they think is their investment thesis on different companies. And I believe that if we have the ability to continuously digest and to internalize what they mean, sooner or later we'll join the club and be like them. However, in this video particularly, I would just like to trash talk a little bit about Mohnish. I think all humans are fallible, and in this case, I would just like to provide you with a different perspective on the things that I think all Alibaba shareholders should know. With that, I'll just cover 3 main points in no particular priority. So let's get into the first clip about Alibaba being the crown jewel of China.
Alibaba is a crown jewel for China, just like Tencent is a crown jewel for them. So I don't think they will want to do things. These are the plays that have the possibility of global footprints, that they can get there. So I don't think the government is going to take an approach which is going to kill the golden goose, if you will. Mm-hmm. So my take is they've extracted their pound of flesh and they've sent a pretty clear message who's in charge and such. So I don't really expect much more than what we've seen already.
So this argument of Alibaba being the crown jewel of China has been rinsed and recycled many times. A lot of all the foreign investors or people from a third party has always been looking at Alibaba and saying that, hey, they are probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest in time to come. And why would China, being an economic powerhouse and having the ambition to take over the world, why would they hurt their own company? So I believe in one of my videos called Expert Explains, I did talk about, on the highest level, I think that Alibaba is an extension of China. Tencent is also an extension of China. So you can see China as an entire human body, and in order for the human body to work, we have different multiple extensions. So you have your hands, you have your legs, you have your brain. So in the entire workings of China itself, you can see that having your hand is a very important working part. You need your hand to do a lot of daily tasks or daily activities. However, I would just like to push back the argument and extend the conversation a little. Which body part do you think is the most important in the entire human anatomy? I believe it's the heart. Some of you might argue that it's the brain. Whether it's the brain or the heart, it doesn't matter. So what I'd just like to point out and focus on is that the Chinese Communist Party is at the heart of the entire China. So a lot of people have been saying that, oh, the party is over the state. So the CCP has to be in control. And as you can see, there has been a lot of different regulations put forth. They're trying to ensure that even though the growth in China has been explosive over the last 5 to 10 years, they want a sustainable growth. They're not here to hit and run. They are not here to appease the people. Honestly speaking, I think a lot of political critics and a lot of people studying China, in terms of the ambition of the CCP, they will want to be in control in the next 20, 30 or even 50 years. Which also translates to the fact that the idea of party over state. They might be willing to sacrifice short-term gains in order to strengthen the entire power of the CCP in China. And in this case, if you talk about the arms, the legs, and essentially the extensions of China, which is Alibaba and Tencent, if the power and the authority of CCP is being threatened in a very dire situation itself, do you think they will hesitate to cut off one limb or one leg? I don't think so. In this analogy, let's say a venomous snake just bit you on the hand, and in order for you to prevent the poison or the venom from spreading to the entire body, what would you do? Instinctively, if you know it's a matter of fact, you will instantly cut off your hand without a doubt. And in this case, even though Alibaba and Tencent, a lot of people have been holding hands, hugging together, and singing Kumbaya, thinking that, hey, all the big Chinese company and big tech companies are safe from all the regulations and the Chinese Communist Party will not impede their growth, maybe you might want to think again. That said, I still acknowledge the fact that the role of Alibaba and Tencent is getting more and more important in the entire Chinese regime and in how they intend to conquer the world. And I believe strongly that these two companies are part of the 5, 10, 15-year China plan. In order for them to expand worldwide and to continuously invest and to expound their entire influence in the worldwide arena, Alibaba and Tencent is definitely in the plan. But some of you might say, oh, Chikeng, aren't you supposed to be a very big Alibaba bull? Why are you scaring investors right now? Honestly speaking, after knowing all these facts, I'm still a very big Alibaba bull. And I have explained my position time and time again. All this risk has been factored in when I did my analysis of the company itself. So if you do not buy into my argument, then please go ahead. Nobody is forcing you to enter the stock itself. So all I'm trying to say is, even though Alibaba and Tencent holdings might be the crown jewel of China, you might have to dive deeper and to understand the context, the history, and the regime of the entire Chinese Communist Party, and then make your decision on from there. That said, in the next 10 to 15 years, honestly speaking, I do not see a very huge problem for the company itself. So, which is also why I remain extremely bullish about the entire company. If it continues dipping, I'll continue buying. Next, let's move on to the second clip about cloud being the largest revenue driver for Alibaba.
Long term, I think a lot of the value creation for them is cloud, which is non-existent from an earnings perspective today. You know, they have some scale, but they're the number one player. But I think that when you look at Amazon's numbers, and Amazon's numbers with cloud are somewhat misleading because they dump their internal cloud expense in there. So actually, 50 billion revenue and 15 billion net income is actually understated. So I think they're making more than 15 on that because they're growing as well. They're investing in all the future growth. So the cloud margins are incredible. And the issue with the cloud is that very few people can play. I mean, in the US, the game is for the most part over. You've got the players and they will, it's hard to even see them even changing the position they're in.
So as Mohnish has perfectly put, I think the entire US cloud market has kind of already stagnated. We already know who comes out on top and who became the market leader. And in this case, it's Amazon with their AWS platform. I think Mohnish did go one step further to explain about the entire Chinese cloud market right now. I think they're still in the midst and in the transition of trying to find a market leader, which is also why I've constantly been saying that it will be a bloodbath in time to come. And I would just like to push back the argument about him being extremely optimistic about saying that, hey, only a few people can do it. Honestly speaking, looking at the entire cloud competition in China right now, I'm not as optimistic as Mohnish. He might have a very high probability of Alibaba Cloud coming up victorious. But looking at all the different competitors right now, having Baidu, Huawei and Tencent, on top of having the ambition of the CCP, encouraging more competition and ensuring that nobody holds a monopoly in any single industry that they find it very important, I'm hopeful that Alibaba will be the market leader, but I don't think there will only be one market leader. So the entire idea of the cloud competition is all these big players all have big pockets. If you look at the US counterparts, who are in the cloud industry? You have Amazon, you have Facebook, you have Microsoft. And all these people are all trillion-dollar companies. They are not small. And even though they are all trillion-dollar companies, Amazon still came out victorious. Number one, because it has the first mover advantage. Number two, they knew how to maneuver themselves in the entire industry itself. So would the same play out in China? I will reserve my optimism because if I start praising Alibaba Cloud, a lot of people will say that, oh, you're being too optimistic. Your projections are unrealistic. You have already fell in love with the stock. So although the competition in China has not been solidified, there isn't really a clear market leader because right now the entire market share itself is quite fragmented. Albeit Alibaba having the majority of the market share, I think Baidu now has around 10 to 20%, Tencent has 10 to 20%, Huawei has 10 to 20%, and Alibaba now has around 30 to 40% market share. So with this entire fragmentation of the market, we really have to keep a very close eye in understanding the developments of Alibaba Cloud in terms of its competitive landscape. Which is also why in the Chinese market itself, all these different competitors have already proven themselves that they have the ability to go and take on Alibaba Cloud. And which is also why I don't believe that only very few people can do it. That said, having a few market leaders might not be a bad thing, particularly for Alibaba. It keeps them on their toes and it ensures that people continue innovating, and ultimately, as long as the market continues growing, everybody's pie will continuously become bigger. And lastly, transiting to the third clip about Mohnish speaking about this entire black box idea.
And quite frankly, the modesty of the valuations is a great place to be.
What is Baba trading at right now on a PE basis?
Like 20?
20, yeah.
20, but the thing is that 20 has a lot embedded in it. They have a lot of money losing businesses that are within that 20. So actually the real multiple is much lower. Yeah. And we don't know, the thing is some of this is a black box. We just don't know a lot of stuff that's inside, but there's a lot of good stuff inside. And there's a lot.
So when you think about the Chinese names from a corporate governance standpoint, especially Chinese big tech, do you have any concerns at all about leadership at Baba or leadership at Tencent?
So these two companies specifically, I don't think they fit the template of typical Chinese businesses. Both these businesses from the very early days had international backers. And they've got what I would call enlightened leadership. And so if you drill down on the principles of Alibaba, for example, core principles that they live by, they are very transparent. It's a very core corporate mission. I think Jack Ma put in a lot of these principles and vision and mission into the business, and it's very deeply embedded because they will, for example, when they hire a new engineer, they'll take them offline 4 weeks to make sure they get embedded in the company's culture before they start working.
Interesting.
So and they're doing that for all their employees on a pretty deep basis. So I think that these businesses have learned that they are really global companies and they need to operate with a global set of rules.
So honestly speaking, I have a disclaimer, it's just a personal opinion. I personally don't think that the entire black box business model is necessarily bad for all the Alibaba shareholders. Like he rightfully put, I think even Tencent is also a black box business model. A lot of people have been analysing the company, doing their own deep dive and doing a very deep analysis on the company itself. And many people come up even more confused about all the different investments that they have done, about how they have been building the entire ecosystem itself. So if you were to actually consume a lot of all this valuation analysis done by all the different analysts, some of them actually said that, hey, they didn't even put in Ant Financial Group into the entire equation when they calculate the current valuation of Alibaba Group. Which is also why this entire black box idea, people might not understand about the business, people might not be able to accurately value that particular business. For example, Ant Financial Group, or for example, the cloud business. But that said, a lot of their calculations and a lot of their projections has already discounted the entire business out of the Alibaba's valuation, which also means they are not over-promising and under-delivering. I think the entire idea of this over-promise and under-deliver has been plaguing a lot of different companies and a lot of different shares out there in the entire market itself. I might be claiming that, hey, if I find the cancer cure, my share price might instantly shoot up 100 times. Like BNGO, but ultimately by having this discounted idea that saying anything that you're currently buying with this current share price is just the main business, all these side businesses like the cloud, like the Ant Financial Group, if they manage to turn up well and they manage to spin off as a subsidiary into an even bigger company, and like Mohnish put spawners, they spawn even bigger company than the initial company, those are all considered bonuses. And as a shareholder, I think that having all these bonus subsidiary and bonus businesses will definitely aid our entire business strategy. Because who do not want a company that's able to spawn multiple minions that help them earn even more money? And I think a lot of people have a negative connotation about you not investing into something that you don't understand. I'm not suggesting that you totally do not understand what the business is. Do you not know what cloud business models are? Do you not know what fintech businesses are? It's just that because they're all private companies and it's very hard to come up with a valuation. So to me, a lot of all these different arms of the company itself has been heavily discounted. And if they manage to realize the potential and if the entire market suddenly realize and wake up from their dream and manage to value the subsidiary business itself, think about the amount of upside for Alibaba Group Holdings. So with that, I hope I didn't scare even more Alibaba shareholders out there. For those of you who have already done your analysis, you should remain objective and always refrain from falling in love with a stock. With that, I'll see you in the next video, but more importantly, I'll see you on the moon. Goodbye.